Hi, everyone. This is Azure, and you're listening to the FULCRUM End of Year podcast.
Hey guys, so yeah, we brought her back. She was our old podcast host. We had the news program, and we're planning on relaunching that in some form in February. So I thought that I would get back into the habit now, even though it's still technically 2024. We're only a few hours out from it being the new year, and everybody's excited, I think, to get this year behind us. But some major news stories and issues and metaphysical stuff I've brought up on Twitter. And I just want to kind of jump into all of it. And I guess we'll start with the Elon Musk midlife crisis, alleged midlife crisis. He changed his name on Twitter today to Kekius Maximus and a picture of a frog. I think it's supposed to be the Pepe meme.
Yeah.
So he did that, and he also said, he did a post that people who believe he's Adrian Dittmann are subtards, which is his word for a low IQ person. And this Adrian Dittmann has come to the internet's attention in recent days because it appears to be possibly Elon Musk posting from another account. And normally that wouldn't be a big deal. A lot of people do stuff like that on the internet. You know, people have burner accounts on Reddit and stuff. But when you're the world's richest man and when you're also like just that prominent, it becomes a news story. And some people have said, oh, if you're talking about this, you're a liberal or you're mainstream media, you're trying to attack Trump. And it's like, I'm not trying to attack Trump at all. This has to do with Elon Musk. And it's just, again, it's a newsworthy story. This guy's complimenting Elon on being such a great dad. And he does these multi-hour long live streams on Twitter, which are called Spaces. And in these spaces, he sounds for hours on end identical to Elon Musk and laugh and cadence and the topics that he talks about, sometimes in the first person. Like he famously said, I chose this rocket fuel. Who's I? Is this guy also working at SpaceX alongside Elon? So people who want to dismiss this, there's just too much weirdness there to dismiss it. And if you want to say maybe it's some weird AI chatbot that Elon created, I'm open to that possibility. I think that's definitely possible.
Could be like a test run for something new he's working on.
Yeah, but if that's what he's doing, he should disclose it at a certain point because you have people in his live streams, again, sitting there for hours and thinking that they're holding court with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And there's something weird to that, right? Because if you're Elon Musk, use your real name. You know, there aren't like Bill Gates impersonators who are pretending to know everything about Microsoft who have huge followings on the internet. That's just not a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So here it's like that's the equivalent, and people are curious as to why this is occurring. So that I welcome people's feedback on. And to me, it just like it sticks in my craw because when he took over Twitter, he pledged transparency in the end of the old kind of shenanigans of the previous Twitter. And if you're banning people and if you're mocking your paying users because they called you out on a lame burner account or an AI experiment or whatever it is, you should actually explain to them what's going on instead of just mocking them and removing their accounts, which seems like you're going back to the old ways. And the other issue is like Meta, which owns Facebook, Zuckerberg, Meta, whatever you want to call it. They said they plan on letting people upload AI personalities and doing social media profiles on Facebook, but it's going to be clearly labeled. Right, so I think that...
For now.
Yeah, for now. Until it becomes a Black Mirror episode. But I think that is like so key. So if that's what Elon is doing, is playing with everybody, just disclose it. Just put a label on it that this is an AI account and not a real person. Because maybe he has a twin brother. Maybe he has some ultra impersonator that he's friends with for some unknown reason. But whatever it is, it needs to be explained eventually, I think. And the New Jersey drones, another thing that needs to be just looked into. It was all over the news. The former governor of Maryland posted a video of he saw drones in the sky and posted it. And he's a credible person. You know, he's not a UFO chaser.
Yeah.
So there's clearly something there, and I don't know what else to say about it. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't know. It just seems a little on the strange side considering, like I said, what has come out from the government, them stating that it's nothing nefarious, nothing to worry about, it's not from enemy lands or anything like that, as if they know what it is. And if they know, and they can say these things for sure, it makes me curious as to...
Right.
What's not being shared?
Well, yeah, President Biden, he comes out and he says, they're nothing nefarious, apparently. And it's like, man, that doesn't really instill a lot of confidence. Apparently, they're nothing harmful. Why don't you have some clear answers? You know, like the thing with the orbs. So people who don't know at all what I'm talking about, it seems like there's two different phenomena and that they're occurring at the same time. There are these glowing orbs that shoot across the sky and exhibit properties that are just too fast to be a drone run by, you know, like a consumer. At the same time, it's not an airplane because it has no wings and no discernible propulsion, no engine, right? No noise. They're silent. And they seem like balls of energy. And some of their movements seem almost playful, like it's under conscious, you know, control of some kind, rather than just like a lightning ball. And so you have, you know, kind of like the Abyss or Close Encounters of the Third Kind or something. You have something genuinely strange happening in the sky over parts of the Northeast. And I've seen enough videos of this that I believe something did happen. And then you got, at the same time, these really weird kind of military-looking drones that pop up in the areas where people are seeing the orbs. So that's why I say they're overlapping phenomena, is people who are doing videos about the drones then catch the orbs and vice versa. And the drones are like, they seem like small planes, 8 to 10 feet long, if not a little bigger. And they're very loud in some cases and sound like they're being propelled by a jet engine of some kind.
Very human sounding technology.
Very human sounding technology, but also you can see why people would be annoyed, if not scared, because they're not little consumer drones from Best Buy. Yeah. These are something that's higher end, you know.
Not something you can just get your hands on easily.
Mm-hmm. And just like the Chinese weather balloon or whatever it was, the spy balloon, that story just disappeared one day and people never talked about it again. I have a feeling that's going to be the case with this.
Do you think it's coincidental around the same time that they decided to come out and say that UFOs are real and aliens are real and all of that stuff?
Well, that's a great point, right? The thing a couple of years ago where Congress had whistleblowers and there was a lot of media attention on the UFO issue and like half of Netflix was UFO documentaries. That might have been to like prepare people for what we're seeing now.
Yeah. Makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder. Next up on the X-Files. No, it's very strange. And I think as a publisher and, you know, with the Fulcrum community, I think it's good to have a balanced approach. And some people want so hard to believe that ET is real that they sound kind of like clowns. And, oh, they care so much about us. It's like, do they? They let us go through 2 world wars and COVID and Vietnam. Like, do the aliens, if they're watching above, do they care about us in any respect? You know, the abductions sound rather traumatizing if that stuff's real, right? Gray aliens abducting people and cattle. They're seeing more cattle mutilations in the West, apparently. And like Utah and New Mexico, a spate of cattle mutilations. So I don't know. I don't like focus on the UFO topic that much compared to most other truther journalists.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think to say, nope, this is nothing, the orbs are just China, or it's enthusiasts, or what do they say, hobbyists. Oh, they're hobbyists. These are some pretty powerful hobbyists. They have technology that even
some good stuff.
Even the U.S. military doesn't understand. That's a pretty powerful hobbyist flying their quote-unquote drone around. But yeah, so I don't want to be like one of those professional skeptics either, because those people are just as dishonest and just as annoying to listen to. And so I guess I'm saying, I don't know. I don't know what those are.
Yeah.
So what were the other big topics that we wanted to discuss here? Let's see. It's been a wild year, but the rise of Bitcoin. So the ETFs launched at the beginning of the year, back in January. Now we're in December, and it's been just a phenomenal year overall for Bitcoin. If you look at where Bit was at back in January, when the ETFs first launched, to today, if you just put your money in and then, you know, just walked away, which I imagine some older people with discipline did, you'd be a very happy camper right now. You know, not financial advice, but you'd be a believer in Bitcoin if you've interacted with it for just the last year.
Yeah, we've hit a few new all-time highs. Just recently, too.
Yep. And recently it was over 100K for a little while, $100,000 a coin. And Ether, the second most popular cryptocurrency, Ethereum, it's had a pretty decent year too, it looks like. I mean, not nearly as good as Bitcoin, but it's also had ETF approvals that allow people to buy it through traditional E-Trade, Robinhood type brokerage platforms. And that's a huge breakthrough, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So that's been exciting to see that grow. And my relative absence has just been due to personal stuff and also feeling like I didn't have much to add to the discussion. I think when media becomes a smaller part of your income, I don't have to wake up in the morning and put out content, and we don't have to engage with you guys or even get subscriptions. And so that changes your priorities to where I only want to come out with something if it's either really good or really interesting. And maybe people disagree with me, but I think the UFOs in New Jersey, there's sightings in Oregon also. And I think Elon Musk's weird meltdown when people called him out over this alleged burner account. I think these are interesting stories, and people have no interest in this. It's like, well, what are you interested in? Just the sports score, like the weather or something? Like, this is what's bubbling up on the internet, and so we're going to talk about it.
They're only interested in things that suit them.
Yeah.
We're going to benefit them
right,
in some way.
Local issues, I guess. And no offense to those people, they're probably not listening to this podcast anyways. But the other thing I want to dive into, I guess, is I've rambled on Twitter about some different metaphysical topics. And I don't really know what I was getting at, but I think people, I guess how I'll phrase this is like I used to live in DC for close to 2 years and rubbed elbows with a lot of people who, in a sense, know what they're talking about because they're in some of the organizations and groups and belief systems.
Positions of power.
And positions of power that all of us speculate about and we don't really know. And I don't really know, but I've had, conversations with people who do know. And maybe every single one of these people has led me on and is just feeding me nonsense. So we have to, put that up as a possibility.
Yeah,
maybe
always.
These are just people with, fisherman's tales about the deep state or whatever. But there's also a possibility that there's something there. And many of what these people have brought up, I've read about in books completely unrelated to them. And books that are from a while ago, like the 1920s and 1930s. Manly Hall is one of them. He was a powerful Freemason and wrote about a bunch of different spiritual and metaphysical topics. So this is stuff, again, that was published in the 1930s. And people in D.C. just a couple of years ago, some of these people I still interact with, said many of the same things. And so I see, as a journalist, when there are different sources of information that all kind of corroborate each other, then there might be something there.
Yeah.
And what annoys me is there's a lot of truther accounts and Alex Jones level personalities who pretend to know about the occult and the quote unquote spiritual war that's happening. And they're so off base that it's difficult to listen to. And I can't swoop in and say, hey, I know the answer, because I don't. But I will ramble on Twitter and give my total speculation, which is what I've done over the last few days just for fun. And a lot of these people are not Christian by any means, these people in power. They might go on TV and tell you what great Christians they are, right? But they don't really go to church or believe in Jesus as an active thing. Or practice,
beliefs,
right,
yeah.
the compassionate beliefs of Jesus Christ. They actually have no interest in. And their religious beliefs, some people say, I don't know if I believe this yet, if I think this is true, but their beliefs are around this idea of a demiurge, and it's weird stuff that goes back to Gnostic Christianity, and even way before Gnostic Christianity with some kind of occult Egyptian beliefs. And so very quickly, I'll just lay it out. They believe in a demiurge, or a fallen angel basically, who controls this world. And so it's inaccurate to call it Lucifer because they're operating from a pre-biblical context.
Yeah.
Egyptian stuff came before the Bible. So they believe that this world is created and maintained by essentially a fallen God, and that there's a God above him in a sense who's detached from the world. there's an ultimate creator. But that creator is not the creator who, decides if you're going to win the football game, or if the cancer diagnosis is going to come back positive, or if tomorrow it's going to be rainy or sunny. The God of this world and daily life, according to what some of these people believe, is again this demiurge. And again, you can't call it Lucifer because it predates the entire Judeo-Christian, set of beliefs. But that's actually what these people are worshiping. So it just annoys me when people are like, oh, they worship the devil. It's like, not exactly, because the devil didn't exist as a concept. And the devil is like a competing religion, taking this thing that these elites worship, right, and putting it in a negative context without also showing like, oh, it might be more of a trickster and a redeemer than a demon that's trying to trick everybody.
Right, like an Erebus type situation versus Lucifer. Right.
Yeah. So there's a misunderstanding. And I don't know. Maybe these people are right on. Maybe these like very shallow media personality Christians are totally right that we're dealing with a war against the devil. But again, if you actually talk to these people in power, it's way more complex. And so when people say they worship the sun, it's like, not really. I think the sun plays an important role in their belief system because it provides us with everything.
Yeah.
If the sun goes away, the plants die, and all of us are dead within a matter of months.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the sun is important. You can see why ancient cultures would have revered it. But to say these people are just crazy sun worshipers, that's also not accurate.
Yeah.
So there's something much deeper going on. And so you have groups of people and families, family lines that have been operating for many thousands of years. And yet these Christian influencers think that the whole game started 2,000 years ago. And they put everything into this context of it's either good or evil. It's either satanic, quote unquote, or it's Christian.
It's godly.
And there's something that can't be called pagan, and it can't be called devil worship. And they're not sun worshipers, they're not primitives. And these are very powerful people. And their beliefs in a couple of different publications have come out. And so anyway, that's what I was trying to make sense of on Twitter is you have people who are condemning Luciferians all day while not acknowledging that some of their heroes, as far as I can tell, are essentially Luciferian. But again, it's not like they worship the Lucifer of the Bible. They worship this ancient God that they believe was like put here to make everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, God and the devil are so subjective in all different cultures. It's crazy to think that there's only one answer that's correct.
But where these people have something interesting is, and instead of black and white, good and evil, it's like this God is flawed also, right? It is a fallen being.
We're
he wants to be
in
back
his
up.
image, right?
Right. He wants to be back up with his dad. For some reason, his dad cast him down here to be the generator of physical reality.
Yeah.
Which is probably tedious at some level. I don't know.
What a job. I wouldn't want to have it.
So when these people commune with this being, if they do, as long as they're not doing anything gross in the process, as long as they're not sacrificing people or animals, I don't think it's necessarily fair for us to judge those people in a really extreme and like caricature way, because that's not the truth. And as a truther, I'm after the truth. I don't want to make people look like shit if they're not actually shit, right? So
as long as you're not hurting anybody, why does anybody care?
Yeah.
What others believe in is my thing.
Yeah, so the point is there an Illuminati? I don't know, but there's a more sophisticated worldview than just, they're devil worshippers. There's something else going on that's spiritual, but in a sense is almost neutral because they have this flawed God that they think is kind of stuck here with us in a sense. There's like something poetic about it. It's like, what if God was one of us, that song? It's like here, like God's a troubled being in some sense, He doesn't want his job.
It's a hard job.
And he has an absentee father, and he doesn't want his job. And yet this is the thing that's creating our reality. It's an interesting concept. But yeah, 2025 should be interesting, for better or worse. I think we're in for a lot of stuff. And tune into the refreshed Fulcrum News podcast starting in February. And I guess make sure you're subscribed on the Substack if you're not yet, davidseaman.substack.com. And my alt account over on TikTok is Kyle.Landman with 2 N's, 3. Again, that's Kyle Landman with 2 N's. And I chose that just to riff off of Elon's alleged schizo burner account, right? He's Adrian Dittmann. And so David Seaman is Kyle Landman on TikTok. But you only know that if you know that. It's like a little...
inside joke.
Not really a joke, but it's like a speakeasy, right? You need to know the code. And again, the fact that I don't care about making money from media anymore and that we don't have to put out as much content means that we still want to put stuff out. We still want to hang out with you guys and put out news and dig into stuff that I think is curious at best. I still want to do all that stuff. My mind is very active. And I feel like the people who tried to silence me are like, they don't know their place in this world. And so definitely generating more media and more research is part of what we're going to do in 2025. And we have the tailwinds of things like Bitcoin, all these random successes at our back. And thank you guys who've all tuned in this year. And I hope you have a great new year. And any final thoughts from you?
I hope that 2025 is better than this year was. Just say that.
Yeah.
I think we all can agree on that one.
Yeah, this is a tough year in many respects. I lost my father. He passed away. I also ended a long-term relationship. A lot of stuff being taken away from me, but also whatever this story is, it's not a tragedy. You know, whatever life is, both
lessons learned.
My life and whoever out there is listening, it's not meant to be a tragedy. People who try to isolate themselves from problems to an unreasonable extent, I think the problems are going to find you anyways. I wrote about that in the most recent ebook. If people want to download that, it's called The End. The End on Amazon by David Seaman, not by Kyle Landman. So The End, and it was just my personal thoughts as my dad was dying. And I was trying to hang on to, you know, a sense of reality and a sense of purpose when there's all this sadness. And in the ebook, I come to the conclusion that problems and sorrow and stuff, they will seek you out. You can't avoid them forever. So it's better to have like a good strategy in place so that you remain a strong person and can get to the other side of it. It's better to do that than not to be prepared, because it will come for you. Bad news will come for you.
Yeah.
And you can try to isolate yourself from the world completely. It'll still get you. I think that's part of if we're in a simulation, if we're in a video game, essentially, and that's part of the way it's built, is something's always going to be poking you.
Yeah.
Even you get money figured out, well, guess what? Now your liver fails or something, right? Oh, your health is better? Well, you get sued and somebody takes all your money. That's how the universe seems to be constructed.
Yeah. Perspective is so important when it comes to making it through these things successfully. Because, I mean, you can just sit there and take it and let it destroy you, or you can have a different perspective on it and keep going.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with these days.
And we're going to keep going here at Fulcrum News. So definitely, again, thank you guys. And let's make sure you're all following on Substack and get that new ebook if you want. But I remember it was like yesterday that it was 2020. And we saw the first video reports about COVID, people just dropping dead in the street, which now we know doesn't even make sense because you don't drop dead immediately from COVID, right?
Yeah.
But we were watching these terrifying videos, and it felt like the whole world was going to change. Like we were suddenly in the midst of a World War level changing of society, from civilian society to now crazy pandemic emergency mode.
Yeah.
And I think that fried a lot of people's brains. By 2 years into it, people were fried. A lot of people anyways. But I think many of us who are truthers, we looked at some of these conspiracies and some of these theories, that this was the catalyst that would get us to 2030 as a very different society. Not necessarily the pandemic was planned, but that there's a group of people that know that when something that big hits, whether it's a pandemic or a meteor or a sudden war, when you get that massive change to the ecosystem, you can suddenly crawl in there and introduce all these other changes that you can't do when everybody's happy with the way things are. Yeah. And whether you believe that theory or not, we're now halfway there. which is amazing, right? We're 5 years into this freak show that began in 2020. And I think the changes are going to accelerate. I think with AI getting so good, and that alone is just so disruptive. The fact that now it's teaching itself and it's getting, through iteration, it's getting better and better through recursive training or whatever. It's incredible to think about.
Crazy now.
So the AI stuff is getting uncanny good. And I think crypto is going to continue to mainline. I think the world has woken up to the fact that it's crazy to have a handful of elderly people issuing the rest of us monopoly money. And the monopoly money loses value over time, guaranteed. It's fucking crazy. So I think Bitcoin is far from a scam. I think it solves a problem that humans have had since fiat took off, which is inflation. That's the problem. So if inflation is the problem, Bitcoin is the solution, in my opinion. And then it opened the door to new stuff like Ethereum, which I see as just an innovation. I don't think you can really compare Ethereum to anything because that hasn't existed before. You can build apps where money's part of the, just so you can build an app that uses email addresses. Now you can build an app that uses money itself to do certain things. And that's never existed before on the internet. So that, I don't think it's as important as Bitcoin, but I still think it's important. And quantum computing, we didn't even get into that. That's a crazy story. Google released a chip, the Google Willow chip. It's a quantum computing system. It only operated for about 5 minutes because it has to be near absolute zero for a quantum computer to work.
Yeah.
But in those 5 minutes, it apparently did more computation on a certain problem, more computation than the world's best supercomputers would have been able to do from the start of the universe until today. And it did it in five minutes. And of course, what it came up with, it doesn't really matter. It was working on some abstract, mathematical distribution. But the fact that when it gets in that groove, it can do more than the supercomputers since the start of time is absolutely mind-bending. And so we'll get into that on the next episode. But so there are new technologies popping up where everything we know about computers might be about to change, basically. It's wild.
So crazy.
All right. Thank you guys for listening and see you in 2025.